Jai Baba everyone. Meher Baba's final declaration was presented on the 30th of September 1954 at Meherabad. It was at the last meeting of what has been described as the 3 incredible weeks, in which 19 Western men over 16 years of age enjoyed Meher Baba's company. And it also coincided with a 2-day meeting of approximately 948 men from all over India, again over 16 years of age, whom Baba had invited to Meherabad to be with him during the last 2 days of the 3 incredible weeks. From an overview of Baba's life, definite phases of his diverse activity and work can be seen. The period surrounding the final declaration seems to be one such phase, and like Baba's new life phase, which preceded it, it is filled with mystery and a sense that Baba is working behind the scene, establishing plans for the future spiritual guidance of all humanity. There are 2 sections to consider in reviewing the final declaration: Baba's initial background comments to the assembled audience, which began at 9:30 a.m. in the pandal created at Lower Meherabad, and then the final declaration itself, which was read out at 3 p.m. in the same pandal. The first section is addressed to the assembled Baba lovers, while the second seems to be addressed to all humanity. In the first section, Baba stresses that everyone should pay full attention to what has been read out, and then goes on to say, "Since I stopped speaking and also stopped writing, except for my signature when essential, I carried on with this alphabet board all these years of my silence. From the 7th of October 1954, I will give up this board also. From the 7th of October, I shall not be speaking, writing, or using the board, or making signs with my fingers. I shall be as if withdrawing within myself. From the 7th of October 1954, I shall completely retire from my present activities. There will be no mass darshan, no programs, no meetings, no messages, no correspondence. Take this seriously, and do not write to me from the 7th of October, as I shall pay no attention to letters." The reason Baba gave for his withdrawal from all activities is, in his words, because now at last the so long promised and repeatedly promised time of breaking my silence is very near. If this wasn't enough of a bombshell, Baba went on to mention without a pause, "By the end of April 1955, I shall definitely drop this body," and then describe the sequence of events that would occur at this time. First, a very strange and serious disease will attack this body, which will be the cause of my humiliation. Secondly, the humiliation will end in the sudden breaking of my silence and my uttering that word which only God can utter. Thirdly, glorification will replace humiliation. All the pent-up infinity in me will splash and spread over the universe. Elaborating further, Baba presented a further shocking scenario. No one of the Mandali, or lovers, will be near me when I am beaten and finally stabbed. According to Charles Purdom, who was present at the time, the gathered Baba lovers went into a deep silence, the kind of silence that surrounds a shock, as if one's world had suddenly caved in. From these remarks, it can be surmised why Baba called it his final declaration. It seems that Baba was finalizing all his affairs. A few days before, he had his message Meher Baba's call read out at a mass darshan program in Wadia Park in Ahmednagar, in which he declared his avatarhood and his essential message to all humanity. And now, in his final declaration, again read to a large audience, he was announcing the close of his avatarhood for this Advent. The final declaration, as recorded, opens with Baba talking to his assembled lovers. He says, I am deeply touched by your devotion, and I am proud of the hearts that contain such love and loyalty. But the actual declaration itself begins when it switches to a more universal message with the line, I have come not to establish anything new, I have come to put life into the old. I have not come to establish retreats or ashrams. I create them for the purpose of my universal work, only to repeatedly dissolve them once that purpose has been served. Let me now pick up on a few points in the declaration. The full title itself, Meher Baba's final declaration, suggests that it is addressed to all humanity, for it gives Baba's full name in the title, as if it is to be intended to be heard by others besides his lovers. This view is also supported by the use of the word declaration, which is a more impersonal word and has an added note of significance about it that is not conveyed by the word message, which Baba normally used. From the outset of the declaration, Baba declares his full responsibility for the state of suffering in the world by stating that he alone acts and reacts through all, that God, in the guise of countless animate and inanimate entities, experiences the innumerable varied phenomenon of suffering and happiness. Thus it is God who brought suffering and human experience to its height, and God alone who will efface this illusory suffering and bring the illusory happiness to its height. And Baba adds that if we are to have just a glimpse of lasting happiness, we must realize that as God is in all and knows all, he is therefore the sole actor in creation. And as the God-man takes full blame and responsibility for everything, including all suffering. Baba then goes on to the issue of illusion, which he states has no end, just as there is no end to imagination. Baba says there are two aspects experienced in illusion, manyness and oneness. It is to be noted here that Baba is talking about an illusory oneness, the other side of the coin of manyness, and not a lasting oneness. Baba highlights the difference between manyness and oneness by stating, while manyness multiplies manyness, oneness goes on magnifying itself. Then Baba presents the idea that creation has a kind of mistake built into it, an unavoidable glitch. He says, with the growth of consciousness, manyness also went on increasing until now it is about to overlap the limit. Overlap the limit is a difficult concept to grasp, and like much of what Baba says, can only be accepted as truthful, coming as it does from Baba as a source of truth. Next, Baba introduces the image of a wave that once it is fully crested breaks down and the tension in the wave is released. In the same way, Baba says, the wave of suffering in the world is presently at its peak, and once it breaks, the destruction of manyness in illusion with its attendant suffering will be dissolved. Then Baba declares, the time has come for what he calls the preordained destruction of multiple separateness that keeps man from experiencing the feeling of unity and brotherhood. Adding, once this destruction takes place, a feeling of oneness in all fellow beings, leading them towards lasting happiness, will be established. The lasting happiness Baba is referring to here is not the state of eternal bliss as in God realization. It is still within the bounds of illusion. It still takes place within the confines of time. In confirming this point, Baba states in his declaration, this does not mean that oneness and illusion shall remain so eternally. That is because all that is illusion, and the consciousness of oneness as well as of manyness in illusion is part of the process of evolution. The time is bound to reoccur when there will be again the same beginning, growth and culmination of the heights of meaningless and oneness in illusion. To my ears, this sounds something like the Hindu idea of the different yugas, or ages of the world. It is in this context of the declaration that Baba again repeats, the destruction will take place very soon and will cause 3/4 of the world to be destroyed. Baba concludes by reiterating what he said in the morning session. Here again, it seems to me as if Baba is announcing the end of his divine role as the avatar. Baba says, "My manifestation as the avatar of the time will be of short duration. This short period will in quick succession cover my humiliation, the breaking of my silence, my glorification and my violent physical end." Baba concludes his final declaration by saying, "During this short period, my word of words will touch the hearts of all mankind, and spontaneously this divine touch will instill in man the feeling of oneness for all fellow beings. Gradually, in the course of the next 700 years, this feeling will supersede the tendency of separateness and rule over the hearts of all, driving away hatred, jealousy and greed that breeds suffering, and happiness will reign." Naturally, a lot of anxiety filled the audience on hearing these words, especially from the fact that it will all happen soon. Charles Purdom recalled, "The declaration and the forward translation were received in complete silence. There was not a movement from any of the company." Soon after the 4 readings, Baba left and the entire company dispersed with great rapidity. Charles Purdom's observations was that Baba had orchestrated everything, that he was in total control, adding that it was all done so lightly and unobtrusively that it was hardly to be noticed. Understandably, many Baba lovers were not only confused but highly distraught by what they had heard, and wrote to Baba before the cut-off date that Baba had specified of the 7th of October. From Satara, where Baba received these letters, he sent out a general letter on the 8th of October to all his lovers who were showing concern. In this letter, Baba never changed the substance of his final declaration. Baba writes, "O my lovers, I love you all. It is only because of my love for my creation that I have descended on earth. Let not your hearts be torn asunder by my declaration concerning the dropping of my body. On the contrary, accept my divine will cheerfully. You can't escape from me, even if you try to escape from me. It is not possible to get rid of me. Therefore, have courage and be brave." Then in November 1954, a month later, Baba sent out Life Circular number 22. In this circular, Baba attempted to further clarify and dispel some of the alarm felt by his lovers by introducing the idea of using different languages. Baba pointed out that some of what he said in the final declaration was in our normal human language, some was exclusively in his language alone, and some was simultaneously in his own language and ours. Baba also stated, referring to his language, "My language is such that none can understand or grasp the underlying meaning of what I say. Therefore, when I want to say a thing, I have simultaneously to make use of your language, also knowing well that you would understand nothing whatsoever if I were to make use of my language alone." From my reading of all this, when Baba speaks exclusively in his language alone, although still using a human language to say it in, it is totally incomprehensible to us. Yet Baba does say that through the fulfillment of events that will occur from what he has said in his own language, from this will be revealed to us the meaning of his words. But consider, for example, Baba's statement that 3/4 of the world will be destroyed. In circular number 22, Baba states that this claim is in his own language alone. And when Baba says that none can understand or grasp the underlying meaning of this language, it logically follows that everything that we may consider as a meaningful interpretation of Baba's statement on worldly destruction can only be speculation on our part. For we have no grasp of the underlying meaning of what Baba is saying. Does he mean destruction as we understand the word, or does he not? One could say that since reality, as Baba has explained, can never be destroyed, all that can be possibly destroyed is what is not real. And what is not real, as Baba has also pointed out, is our sanskaras that block our becoming one with reality. Using this line of approach, it could be speculated that since our physical bodies are nothing but the concretization of our mental sanskaras, then it stands to reason that some destruction of what is not real will automatically involve the physical destruction, or some physical destruction of humankind. Two other relevant circulars came out, number 23 in early February and number 24 on the 10th of April. The second circular had the footnote, "No other circular concerning Baba's final declaration will be issued by Baba, as the above is his final decision." And in this final circular, Baba states in capital letters, "All I have declared in my final declaration must come to pass exactly in the same sequence and with the same intensity of effect, but with modification in the time factor. Therefore, with the changes in the time limit, the intensity, scope, shape and size of the chain of events will take place without any moderation whatsoever to bring into effect the destined plan." But with Baba's clear comments about using his own language that none can understand or grasp the underlying meaning of them, it still leaves any real comprehension of what Baba is saying up in the air. Baba's words, the intensity, scope, shape and size of the chain of events are very abstract, and it's difficult to make any tangible meaning out of them. And also, who is to know if these two are not once more in Baba's own language? But perhaps Baba, as the God-man, the avatar, he only has to say these words to effect some needed spiritual change in the world, and our comprehension of them is not of any real importance. Let me make some closing comments. In the letter sent out by Baba on the 8th of October, he mentions of his lovers establishing internal connections by obeying his orders, and that it is only for forging these internal connections that the external connections were maintained, and that external contact is no longer necessary. No doubt, simply hearing that Baba was to drop his physical body would have automatically forged a deep inner connection with Baba in the Baba lovers who first heard of it. At the very least, it certainly would have raised the intensity of their feeling of love for him. From all accounts, a new intensity of love was experienced at the next 1955 Sahavas held at Mehrabad, in which many of the same Baba lovers attended. What marked this occasion was the great depth of love expressed between Baba and those attending. Also at this time, God Speaks was complete and near ready to be published, and perhaps the final declaration did mark the end of Baba sending out universal messages for all of humanity. God Speaks being Baba's ultimate declaration. But of course Baba did give out messages after 1954, but these seems to be more addressed to his lovers, or when he was specifically required by others to publish something. It is interesting to note in this regard that Francis Brabazon, who attended the 1954 meeting and the subsequent 1955 Sahavas, wrote of the following 1962 East-West gathering, that God-man has become tired of scattering his pearl before the swine of us, and prefers this time to convey his message of love and truth through personal contact, to sit with people and talk the small talk of the day, to listen to the music they make and crack jokes with them. Let me finish with Baba's own words, on words, simply spoken in our language. You have had enough of words. I have had enough of words. It is not through words that I give what I have to give. In the silence of your perfect surrender, my love, which is always silent, can flow to you, to be yours always to keep, and to share with those who seek me. Jai Baba.
Hi, I'm Richard Bloom, and the focus of my presentation is the Beyond God and the Beyond Beyond God. These sublime aspects of God are revealed by Baba in his magnus opus, God Speaks, the final editing of which was completed in 1954 and then published by Sufism Reoriented in 1955. It's interesting that in 1954, Baba also gave up the use of his alphabet board as his means of communicating, thus deepening his silence of not speaking. But one could say that he did speak. He spoke through his book, God Speaks. The sections of God Speaks which I find most significant and enthralling pertain to Baba's explanations of God, particularly his explanations of the Beyond God and the Beyond Beyond God. My understanding is that these are the most profound revelations ever given to humanity. Through them, Baba provides a whole new understanding of what God is. He provides a new vision for a new humanity. No doubt, these are very abstract concepts, and many people find them difficult to grasp. Of course, they are difficult to understand because Baba makes it clear that these states of God are beyond imagination and conception. Nonetheless, I'm going to attempt to illustrate these abstract states, and I'll also share my own ways of understanding these engaging descriptions of God. We'll look at the differences between these two states of God, why there are two states, as well as the characteristics defining each state. But let's start with examining what Baba means by the term beyond. On the physical plane, one can go beyond the world, beyond planets, beyond the stars, and even beyond galaxies. But the real spiritual going beyond begins when an aspirant moves beyond the physical universe into the subtle realm of energy. Baba describes the experience of one who is on the first plane of subtle consciousness in his film Scenario, which he wrote at Harmon-on-the-Hudson in 1931. The scenario reads, "His subtle eyes see different luminous ultra-colors and innumerable small circles of steady light, with his master's figure looming large in the circles. And into his subtle ears are poured forth streams of sweet, melodious, enchanting, thrilling, and exquisite sound." The character in the scenario moves beyond one subtle plane into the next plane until he moves beyond the fourth plane when he enters the mental sphere. In his scenario, Baba describes the character's experience on the fifth plane. He now finds his mental body traversing the ocean of light and living on the same level as the mental plane spirits. He not only has direct communication with them, but also feels attached to and linked with them. The ecstasy is immensely intensified, and he finds in his mental existence a regular flow of divine happiness. Now Baba describes the character's experience on the sixth plane. With his spiritual body, which has eyes, ears, and nose as one, he sees the real ocean of light, God. His ecstasy is now at its zenith. Each advancement from one plane to the next entails a moving beyond, referred to as fana. Fana means passing away in, or an annihilation. Each fana is followed by baka, which is a state of residing in. The leaving of one plane of consciousness is a fana, and the residing in the next plane is a baka. The final fauna, fauna phila, is the annihilation of the mind. It is the final going beyond. In his scenario, Baba describes the character becoming one with God. Here, he is one with this divine ocean of infinite light. The aspirant now merges with the beyond state of God, which is beyond the gross, subtle, and mental planes. And he also becomes conscious of the beyond state of God. So let's begin with the beyond state of God. Regarding the beyond state, Baba says in God Speaks, this state of God is so transcendent that nothing can really be conceived of it. It is utterly pure and immaculate, and it has no tinge of otherness. It is the hidden of all hidden knowledge, and the internal of all internal realities. It is beyond all words, and so it cannot be adequately described. It is neither finite nor infinite, neither attributeless nor with attributes. At the instant when the whim of the infinite God to know himself, who am I, is about to surge in the beyond state of God, the very prospect of this infinite urge to know becomes inconceivable. Thus, it is that very inconceivability of the prospect of the infinite whim surging in the beyond state automatically unfolds the perspectiveness of an infinite aspect different from that of the most original and eternal state. The second state of God accordingly comes into being only as another infinite aspect of the most original first state. This second state is called the original beyond state of God. Meher Baba says that when one who has realized this state of God, that is, the beyond state, tries to describe it to others, this act results in a description, not of the first, but of the second state of God, God in the beyond state. The beyond state of God has two aspects. First is consciousness, and the second is the trio nature of power, knowledge, and bliss. Infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness simultaneously emerge at the time of the whim in the beyond state of God. This spontaneous manifestation of the latent infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness simultaneously is beyond the grasp of human intellect to understand and digest. It is indeed a paradox of the realm of reality, and it defeats all human understanding. How could God gain spontaneously his own infinite consciousness and his infinite unconsciousness simultaneously? We'll return to this paradox later, but for now, let's turn our attention to the trio nature of God. God's intrinsic attributes of infinite bliss, infinite power, and infinite knowledge are not only attributes of God. As we will see, they also manifest throughout illusion, serving as the backbone of the architecture of the creation. In God Speaks, Baba explains, each of these finite bases of the triple nature of man, the energy, the mind, and the body typifying happiness, is closely linked with and upheld by each of the three infinite bases of the trio nature of God: infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. Furthermore, these higher realms are linked to and manifest in lower human desires, as Baba explains in the discourses. Lust finds its expression through the medium of the physical body. It is concerned with the flesh. It is a form of entanglement with the gross sphere. The chief expressions of greed are related to the emotional part of man. It is a form of entanglement with the subtle sphere. Mind is a seat of anger, and its expressions are mostly through the activities of the mind. Anger is a form of entanglement with the mental sphere. Baba explains that it is possible to transmute these lower human desires into higher spiritual qualities. The opposite of lust is love, the opposite of greed is generosity, and the opposite of anger is tolerance or patience. By trying to dwell in love, generosity, and tolerance, man can erase the tendencies of lust, greed, and anger. These higher aspects also manifest in the various spiritual paths of devotion, service, and knowledge. The pilgrim, traveling on the path of worship, love, and devotion, Bhakti Yoga, obtains glimpses of eternal joy. He only achieves the state of infinite bliss when the seventh and last plane of perfection is reached. The pilgrim who travels on the path of service, Karma Yoga, obtains glimpses of eternal power on the first four cosmic planes. The pilgrim on the path of knowledge, Dhyan Yoga, has experiences relating to the knowledge aspect of the highest as he passes onward through the six cosmic planes. A stage is reached when man experiences his nature is not the finite body, typifying happiness, but is infinite bliss, not the finite energy, but infinite power, not the finite mind, but infinite knowledge. Thus man loses his basic finite triple nature and realizes that his is the basic infinite trio nature of God. Thus, we see that the infinite trio nature of God, infinite bliss, infinite power, and infinite knowledge, is replicated throughout all aspects of illusion, serving as the architecture of creation, first in the higher spiritual realms, then in the low desires of humans, the higher human qualities, then on the spiritual path, and finally upon returning to God with conscious realization. As we have seen, there are two aspects to the beyond state of God. There's the trio nature of infinite bliss, power, and knowledge, and there's infinite unconsciousness and infinite consciousness. So a question naturally arises. It is there a relationship between consciousness and the trio nature of God? Baba did not explain one, but I believe there might be. So here's my thinking. And just to be clear, these are my thoughts and not something Baba has said. First, it seems that there's an obvious link between infinite consciousness and infinite knowledge. That is, God's infinite consciousness of himself gives God infinite knowledge of himself. Now what about infinite power? How might it be linked to consciousness? In God's speech, it is explained that the eternal unconscious state of Paramatma eternally aspires to attain the eternally conscious state of Paramatma. Consequently, the divine goal is that the unconscious state of God should attain the conscious reality of the conscious state of God. For state A, which is infinite unconsciousness, to realize consciously state B, which is infinite consciousness, there is no other alternative but that state A must gradually experience transmutation into state B. This is the driving force in the evolution of consciousness. I suggest that this divine force drawing infinite unconsciousness toward infinite consciousness is linked to infinite power. And finally, I believe that infinite unconsciousness can be linked to infinite bliss. Here's why. First, Baba tells us that infinite unconsciousness must gradually experience transmutation, and this is accomplished through the evolution of gross forms. And second, Baba links infinite bliss to the body, typifying happiness. As infinite unconsciousness and infinite bliss both link to the gross realm, it seems logical to link infinite unconsciousness to infinite bliss. So we have infinite consciousness linked to infinite knowledge, infinite power linked to the force driving infinite unconsciousness to infinite consciousness, and infinite unconsciousness linked to infinite bliss. So if my hypothesis is correct, then everything, including the trio nature of God and all of illusion, is the outcome of the play of consciousness. So now, let's turn our attention to the beyond state of God. What is the difference between it and the beyond state of God? First of all, these two states are fundamentally the same. Meher Baba, while explaining the second state of God, stressed that fundamentally, state 2, the beyond state, is in no way different from state 1, the beyond state of God. Baba tells us that the difference arises because it is inconceivable for anything to exist in the beyond state of God. Infinite consciousness and unconsciousness and God's trio nature can only exist in the beyond state. To understand the beyond state, I find it helpful to ask some daring questions. Let's start with a popular philosophical one. Why is there something instead of nothing? Why? Of course, religions and spirituality answer that question with God. Things exist because God created them. But that doesn't actually answer the question, why is there something instead of nothing? As another set of questions can arise, such as, why does God exist? What is there beyond God? If something exists beyond God, did it create God? These questions are relevant as we are attempting to understand what lies beyond God, in the beyond God state. And these questions are not too far afield, as Baba tells us that there is a state in which apparently God does not exist. This is the first stage of Phanafila, the state of nirvana. Nirvana is the state where apparently God is not. This is the only state where God is not, and consciousness is. So let's pursue the question, what lies beyond God? Now, as God is infinite and eternal, and God is the creator of everything in illusion, then the only logical answer to that daring question is, in a state beyond God, in which God does not yet exist, nothing can exist. Only absolute nothingness can prevail. There would only be a complete void or a total vacuum. This vacuum would be absolute and all-encompassing. It would be all there ever was and all that ever will be. It would encompass everything. Therefore, it would be infinite. There is only an absolute vacuum. What's interesting is that our daring question leads us to an answer that perfectly matches Baba's description of the beyond state of God. As Baba explains in God Speaks, in the infinitude of this beyond state of God, only the infinity of infinitude is manifest as the unbounded, absolute, infinite, divine vacuum. If anything did arise in this state, there would no longer be an absolute, infinite, divine vacuum. There would now be something instead of nothing. From this perspective, it seems absolutely impossible for anything to come into existence. This absolute impossibility for anything to exist again matches Baba's description of the beyond state of God. As Baba says in God Speaks, at the instant when the latent, original, infinite whim of the infinite God to know himself, who am I, is about to surge in the unbounded uniformity of the unbounded, absolute, infinite, divine vacuum of the most original beyond state of God, the very prospect of this infinite urge to know, prompting the eternally tranquil poise of God in the unbounded, absolute, infinite, divine vacuum, becomes inconceivable. The second state of God accordingly comes into being, only as another infinite aspect of the most original first state. This second state is called the original beyond state of God. So we see that out of the vacuum of the beyond state of God, infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness simultaneously arise, along with God's trio nature of infinite power, knowledge, and bliss. From God's infinite trio nature arises the higher planes of consciousness, then the lower desires of humans, the higher human attributes, the spiritual paths, and finally conscious union with God. What's most important is to remember that these states of God are not somewhere far away beyond the edges of the universe. These states of God reside within each one of us. Jai Meher Baba.
This is an odlet. An odlet is a short ode. I hope you know what an ode is. It's a poem, and it is titled "The Journey to the Beyond and Back." So this is quite a journey, because this is the journey that we all have to make, and we are making, as you will hear it. It all starts in the very beginning. At the very beginning of everything, it takes you through your evolution, through your reincarnation periods, through the involution of going through the stages of enlightenment, and finally to the end, where you end up. It's the journey to the beyond and back, an odlet of everyone. Now, in the beginning, a man starts as air. What consciousness is that? Fortunately, this only lasts for uncountable ages. There is no rush. You made time endless. So uncountable ages doesn't really last that long. The airman likes to sleep, so time passes quickly. He breezes through being one gas after another, until someone higher up puts his elements together so he can become a rock. Then every kind of rock. What kind of dimmest consciousness does the rock man have? A tiny bit more than when he was the airman. He just doesn't sleep as sound. Don't try to imagine that. The rock has no imagination. You can't imagine what no imagination is like. Thank the Lord he made it to rock. Someone up there must really love you. Have you ever thought of loving air or a rock? There's something too. So what if they're in a rock body? But the great lover who is in everyone and everything likes air, rock, and metal. So the next step was to become metal. But how? When the great one comes, he gives everything a push forward, like it or not. Look how a rock sleeps. It doesn't move. You can't see it, but rock man's dimmest consciousness is shifting to the metal in the rocks. This is a bit shocking if you're a rock asleep. Your infinitesimal consciousness got its first tiniest wake-up call. The push is good for you. You'll thank him later. Now Metal Man is hard and solid, like rock. Just like rock has shape and form, not like air. So Metal Man can be a little flexible and pliable, not brittle like when he was a rock. Don't sell him short. This is a big advance for him. It took a long time for him to make this much progress. So what if he is asleep? At least his sleep is not as deep as a rock. He will just wait it out till the Lord of Love comes again to give the next push. The Lord of everything loves plants. It's now time to become alive, starting with microscopic plants to the tallest trees, and with all the vegetation and most complex plant organisms that live. Evolution is great. I am Plant Man. I like to sleep and be in one spot, like my rock and metal self. But now I have sensation. I feel the heat of the sun, the movement of growing and bending in the wind, and oh yes, sex too, making lots of new plants like me. I am able to dream for the first time. I am so comfortable in my little dream. I hope a fire doesn't come. That would be a very disturbing sensation. The next step is a big one. You can move around on your own power now. You're not going to be able to sleep as much. This is a very different kind of kingdom you're about to enter into. This is the insect, worm, reptile, fish kingdom. It's all here for you to become. You'll do it all. Sensation in the plant kingdom was just a start for being alive. Now it's the law of the jungle. You're going to have to be awake. Your dreams are now of being evolutionary man. This dream is much more organized and real. You're semi-conscious. You can feel fear, lust, hunger, instinct. You can even express caring, protection, and feeding of young and being with your group. You're equipped and programmed to be a predator or a plant eater. You've come a long way, baby, from being the plant man. This push is the beginning of your entry into the big leagues. Nothing like it before. The boss means business here. This is tough love, but you'll get through it and rise to great heights as a bird. You're really going to like this push. He loves birds. You have wings, you can fly. This is fun. You can play for the first time. The chase is on. Your vision is sharper than ever. Your senses are more developed. You feel so much more alive. Your energies have increased tremendously since you were insect, reptile, fish man. Now you're more awake than asleep. You're still semi-conscious. You think you're a bird in your dreaming. In this kingdom, there are so many kinds of birds. You will go through them all. It will take a long time. By the time you are finished with being Birdman, it will be time for the Great Awakener to come again to keep waking you up. Your next leap in his evolutionary plan will be huge. He has great plans for you. Like the great artist that he is cutting and molding you to become human. The animal kingdom was designed for this, but you have to wake up more. All the attributes of a human is gradually being carved into your consciousness. You are still dreaming in your animal forms. You can't help it. From my plant self to my animal self, I was at the same time developing a mental body and a subtle body of energy. the energy to move, and the mind to think and feel. Now I am animal man. My senses are fully developed. They are fully functional. My instincts are razor sharp like never before. I feel great. I can play the game of life and death better than ever. My awareness is more acute. I can be loving, caring, sharing, and I can have family. I am passing through all the animal forms. My consciousness has grown so much. I feel a great urge. I am ready now for a new jump that is greater than all the previous ones combined. This is what you have been waiting for, what you have planned for me from the beginning. At last you have made me ready for what is to come. I have reached the end of the evolutionary road. Again, you are entering the world stage. The push is on. This is the final leap from finite to infinite consciousness. I awaken from the semi-consciousness of the last animal form to the fully awake human form. I am human. Everything I could do in all the lower subhuman kingdoms, I can do fully awake now. I have the razor-sharp consciousness. It makes the dream of me being human look so intense and real. I can question, I can answer, I have intellect, I can reason, I can plan, I have self-awareness and individuality. I know I am me, I exist, I am amazing, and I can know it. You took me from animal to human, from deep unconscious sleep to full consciousness. Your gift is the greatest. It was worth all the joys and pain of the evolutionary path to achieve this wondrous human body. Atom by atom, you built these bodies for me to live in, so the jewel of my consciousness would grow under your guiding and nurturing hand. You are beyond thanks, but not beyond my love. But alas, you have not finished with me. Now I see the master craftsman that you are. You built my awareness through endless dreams, from airman to human. You designed uncountable mental impressions to make these dreams real for me, so I could wake up gradually from my original deep sound, unconscious sleep. Now that I am fully awake, you have a new work to do. Like a sculptor, you must chisel, grind, cut away the mind impressions that hide the jewel of my conscious soul. All these dreams that built my consciousness now have to be scrapped. Their purpose is fulfilled. But wait, I love my dreams. Power, sex, riches, sex, 5 senses, fame, envy, greed, family, children, all the good and bad that the mental body consists of. I can't give that up. It took ages to acquire these abilities to make me what I am. But the master craftsman is compassionate and patient. He made himself beautiful and adorable to our eyes. He made himself wonderful to our mind and feelings. He made himself helpless and vulnerable so we can love him like a parent loves a child. He appealed to our very soul, to our deepest beliefs. For this we would do anything, even give up what is most dear to us, even our own binding mind, with all its contents, just to please him, so he could do what he came for, so he could take us on the journey beyond imagination and dreams. But how? And so it started again. With the almighty power of his great love, he again pushed us, spinning us around the universe. He knew we could not accomplish what he wanted in a lifespan of a single body. So he made our one endless life enter and leave one body after another. To me, it looked like I was living many lives, each time picking up where I left off. I was gradually wearing out the mental impressions that built my consciousness. There was a way to make me free from the bondage of the mind container. Cute little baby chicken. The eggshell was your home. It was there that you became what you are. Without it, you would not be here. Now you want to get out. It has served its purpose. You want to be free and live your life, never to go back inside the shell that made you. Now look at me, inside the mind mold. My consciousness grew from none to full. Now this mental place is filled with endless chains of every thought and emotion. All the pains and joys repeat themselves over and over again. I am bound by the dreams of this mind. I yearn to break out of this spell-binding attraction that grew my consciousness. It served its purpose. I must break free to live my real life, never to go back into that shell again. Except maybe to free others, like you do. Round and round I go, life after life. I'm a servant, I'm a beggar, I'm a man, I'm a woman, an artist, businessman, musician, a lover, a king, a scientist, a beautician, a prostitute, a bricklayer, a pope, a fireman, a banker, a policeman, a teacher, a robber, a seeker, a disciple, a con man, a soldier, a doctor, a humanitarian. On and on I go. I'm living every life. I will keep doing this till all these mental impressions that keep me in this circle begin to wear out. There is so much to experience between lives, heavens and hells, other worlds, places, states of awareness. So many dreams for me to visit, so many dreams for me to pursue. I have been loving this. It is all I know, but somehow there must be more. This is not enough. Something is missing. But what? So you hear the call again. All of life feels the urge to move on. Now you must come again to do what you alone can do. No longer will you be giving me the push. Instead, you will be opening the door. How do you do that? A new door. Something never before done. This door is in me, not out there. Something wonderful is happening. Such beautiful sounds. I never knew such music could be heard. I'm hearing it with a different ear. I'm following these sweet sounds. They're coming from somewhere in me. How can this be? This never happened before. These sounds are coming out of my heart. They're filled with love for you. All I want to do is follow what I hear. I want to find where you are, that you can make such celestial music. I feel it. It is new and enchanting sounds. I only want to hear it. It is so ecstatic. It fills me with wonder. Like waves, it comes to me. I'm entering a new world. This first plane of experience is only beautiful. The people are filled with light and such wonderful song. This rhythm is always changing and fresh. I can touch it. The landscape here is vast and gorgeous. Every color, shape, and form has its own charming sounds. The whole world is music. How can you tell the deaf what it is to hear this? You cannot enter this world till the door is opened. At last, after all these ages, you have opened this first door of divine imagination. I want to get lost in it, never to leave the sounds of love manifesting. This subtle world of vibrating energy makes it easy to do things I could only dream of before. There is no weight. I move with my will. Distance is covered in a moment. Time is what you make of it. Shape of body and form is fluid. You can look like what you want. There is no end to so many hearts in love, joining together and playing like so many notes in a symphony. Who would not want to live in this place? Not me. Just when I thought there was no better place in all the heavens, you came again and opened the second door. This energy pouring through that door contains the brightness of 1,000,000 suns, but it is a different eye that sees it. Again, the attractive force is your light. You are beautiful. Nowhere have I seen such loveliness to meet my sight. This is a world of visions, real and intense. No one can understand the bliss I feel in this light. This is the Nur, light divine, such happiness, such an expansion of powers, abilities, union with others, a plane where souls merge in the light of love. This is the plane of the divine dream, more real than any place I have ever been. Vast horizons, a universe of worlds filled with life. This bliss is filled with knowing. I didn't know this bliss contained knowledge too. Such awareness. The clouds of mental impressions are thinning out. I know you're there behind them. Your light is coming through. The more it thins, the better I see. But there are still so many, but nowhere near as much as before. Still, this place is too beautiful. I will never want to leave it. I'm happier here than I could ever have imagined for myself. Just when I thought I will be here forever, you came again and opened a new door. This third door was a new plane for my infinite consciousness to view. Angelic being, so beautiful. This cosmos is filled with life. People are angels that can be anywhere in a moment. How can my soul be so vast to contain all this? My heart is bursting with love. All this is in me. It has no end. This cosmos is pure energy of every kind. It plays me like a song. I sing with it. I love it. My love for you has increased 1,000-fold. I want to find you, but my mind is filled with delights and light and intense dreams of every kind. There are true powers here, anything you want, yet I'm not all powerful, nor can I see the source of this great power. Miracles would be child's play here. These energies are the breath of life in this realm. How can I not be a god? Maybe I am God. Maybe I found the truth. I am Energy Man. Just as I was crowning myself with the power of my soul, wondering if I became God, you came. Once again, a new door is opened. This time, when I went through, I saw the source of all power. I was it. For the first time, I became the energy I saw. I was in control of it. I was able to do anything with energy. This was the power of all life. Surely I must be God now. Look at me. How could it be otherwise? I knew I could create a world or destroy it. Any wish was instantaneously materialized in this realm. All the lower planes of energy and all their inhabitants, I could know their thoughts. I was amazing even to myself. I had ascended to the core of where all things are possible. My infinite consciousness, now identified as Energy Man. What a dream I was having. I will never give this up. This is real. I am omnipotent. I began to think of destroying the whole universe with all its inhabitants and making a new one to my own design. Like a drunkard, I lost all reason. I had control of energy, but not of mind. My desires were intense. I could not control them. I was staggering on the brink of my own destruction. I could take a terrible fall back to the beginning of evolution, back to the deep unconscious sleep. I had only to unleash the unlimited power at my command. Such a reaction it would have on me. It would undo the mental impressions that was holding my consciousness together. I would short-circuit all I had gained. I was all-powerful energy, but I needed to be saved from myself. But then it happened again. He came and opened the door to the mental world. Such love. I entered this fifth door and forgot that I was energy. I was no longer Energy Man. I became the mind of all things and beings. In this place, I was safe. I could never fall here. I was the master of thoughts. I could inspire millions of souls. No desire would ever again be able to rule me. I could give any dream to anyone. They would live it. I could protect and enrich anyone by inspiring their minds. I was the mind. My identity is the mind. Every beautiful idea or thing is shaped by what I think. It is cosmic thoughts. Most wonderful of all, I could raise another to my state if I so desire. This is the place where imagination is created. My body is made of thoughts, more real than any object or form in the world of matter or energy. Consciousness is unclouded by desire. This is the most vast place. Thoughts that create endless space weave and dance together. A symphony of impressions. Music is an idea here. Light is an idea. All wonders, anything beautiful that can be thought is made here. Nothing dies. Everything lives always. To come here, you know the source. You are the friend of the one who opens doors. Certainly, I have entered the final door. This must be the Godhood, such a place as this where imagination begins. But wait, who is that? Of course, there is more to go. The sixth door is one that few can ever enter, and you opened it for me. For this first time, I am able to see you, Lord of my heart. I am looking at the beloved. The glories of the universal thinking mind cannot enter here. All thought is left behind. I am not that. You are everything. I see you. I woke up to see you, find you, love you. I am now pure feelings, master of where feelings are made. There are no thoughts here, but I can create the feelings for others to think and act on. No one can resist what I make them feel. The infinite love from you passes through me. I am the prison it emerges from, a spectrum of every feeling. I can direct it anywhere to anyone. I can divide up the infinite love from the source. I am the master of desires. but I only desire you. I want you. I love you. I need you. I see you there. What is this gulf that separates us? I am but a speck compared to your endlessness. You are pure consciousness. You are the bliss, power, the knower. You are the existence of everyone. There is nothing you are not. You are my everything, my fulfillment. I want to merge into your embrace. You are even beyond my mind and desire. You are the source I was looking for that started me on my journey from sleep to wakefulness. How could I ever resist you? How could I ever want anything else? You are the love I have been searching for from the beginning. My darling beyond the heavens, there you are. I am on fire with love for you. You are the door opener. But then there is this gulf. I am finite. You are infinite. How can I cross it? There is no limit to this distance. No one can help me. They are all trapped with me on this side, be they in stone or mental form. We are all in finite land. I cannot see a way to you. There is no way for me. There is only a way for you. Come to me, my love, lest I suffer the eternal torment of our separation. Only you can open this last and only real seventh door. I see it now, everything happening for this real moment when we could become one. My drop consciousness, my me, wants to return home to your infinite ocean of consciousness where I came from, to live the life I was destined for, free, knowing the beloved of all. And so it happened, just as it is written, you came to me when I could not go to you. You took me across this timeless, endless gulf that separated us to become what you are. My dreaming fulfilled is now ended. I was never anything but you. I am awake now forever, the beloved of all. Now I will tell you the secret, how you took me across the gulf that was so impossible to cross. It was easy for him. He was everywhere already. There was no gulf for him. He cooled my burning desire for him till the gulf of separation disappeared. Then instantly we became one. Lover and beloved was no more. Only love existed as the almighty attractive force everywhere. It may interest you to know that I hear your calls from the air man, stone and metal man, from the insect, worm, reptile, and fish man, from the bird and animal man, and from the human. From all the kingdoms of life everywhere, wanting to move on to the next level. The call is out to give the evolutionary pushes and the doors to be opened for the planes of energy and mind. Men in every body and form, in every state of being, all wanting to move on and come back to me, consciously or just by urge, unconsciously. Everyone wanting to better themselves. So I will be back, even though I'm not going anywhere, to do what I ordained for you. If you want to know who I am, it is simple. I am the divine beloved who loves you more than you could ever love yourself. I am God. Now you've taken the journey that we're on. Meher Baba.
before the beginning of creation, there existed only the state of God is. There is neither consciousness nor unconsciousness. Neither were there forms nor formlessness. Neither was there any creature or creation. The state had neither attributes nor was it attributeless. It is called the beyond state of God. This state gave rise to another state called the beyond state of God. In the beyond state of God, the potential for the possibility of change to occur existed. Eventually, a change did occur in the changelessness of the beyond state of God, when the potential for change precipitated an instantaneous and spontaneous whim for God to know himself. At the very instant this whim in the beyond state of God occurred, God manifested both infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness simultaneously. Infinite consciousness remained in the beyond state of God, fully conscious of its infinite nature of being God eternally. But infinite unconsciousness began a long journey of evolving consciousness, simultaneously evolving the physical creation. The creation as we now know it, the creation of time and space, of mind, energy, matter, and form, evolved in order to gain consciousness of itself. And thus, the creation evolved. The first form, which evolved both a minute form with a minute amount of consciousness attached, was gas form. The beginning of the physical universe, called the Big Bang, occurred approximately 13.7 billion years ago. The first elements created out of the Big Bang was hydrogen, helium, and lithium gas. Giant clouds of these gases formed to create stars and galaxies. Other elements, such as carbon and oxygen, were created in the nuclear fusion, which takes place in the center of stars, and the remaining elements were formed. When stars exploded, the stardust coalesced into particles, which gathered to form dense rock and stone, which eventually became planets. Planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. For 1.5 billion of these years, planet Earth was simply gas, water, and rock. In the evolution of infinite unconsciousness to gain consciousness, rock form succeeded gas form, and then microorganisms succeeded rock form, and from microorganisms, plant life evolved. 2.5 billion years after that, the first ground plants grew. In the evolution of infinite unconsciousness to gain consciousness, creatures that have no spine, such as worms and jellyfish, evolve from plant life. Then creatures with spines, including all varieties of fish, followed. And all manner of birds and reptiles flew and crawled onto the earth 200 million years ago. Mammals followed the birds. And then the primates, monkeys, chimpanzees, and apes evolved 8 million years ago. Early man evolved 200,000 years ago, and slowly the evolution of form stopped with modern man. Consciousness was fully developed now, with the full developed human form. A process of reincarnations and the expansion of awareness followed. Human civilizations based on farming and community appeared 10,000 years ago. The first known depiction and discovery of the wheel occurred 5,000 years ago. Man's fully developed consciousness turned inward, and the process of the involution of consciousness began. Through involution, man became conscious that the world of energy had created the world of form, and became conscious of himself and the world as energy. Further along in involution, man became conscious that the world of energy was created by the world of mind, and became conscious that he himself and the world are mind. Further along in involution, man had become completely conscious of all that was previously unconscious, and the culmination of the process of evolution, reincarnation, and involution of consciousness, which is to become infinitely conscious, was achieved. The first human to become infinitely conscious in human form became identical in consciousness with the original infinite consciousness of God, which occurred at the instant of God's whim to know himself in the beyond state of God. In that instant, God gained infinite consciousness of himself, but not of the creation. The original infinite consciousness of God and the beyond state became one with the infinite consciousness of man, gained through the evolution and involution of creation. And God and man became one and the same. Simultaneously, man became God, and God became man. The first man to possess the infinite consciousness of God in human form, gained through the long journey of evolution, is called the Avatar, and has assumed responsibility for all in creation to lead them to the same infinite conscious state that he possesses. The Avatar periodically takes a human form and lives a divine life on earth as a man amongst men. He has been given many names: the God-man, the Christ, the Son of God, the Rasul, the Messiah, the Savior, the Prophet, the Buddha, and the Avatar. After the life of the Avatar on Earth comes to its human conclusion, he again goes to the beyond state of God, and the spiritual affairs of the world are in the hands of the 5 living perfected masters that are present on Earth. When these 5 living masters decide that the state of humanity is in need of the Avatar's presence on Earth, they begin the process of bringing the infinite consciousness of God in the beyond state of God into creation, and a new advent of the Avatar begins.
On September 12, 1954, Meher Baba gave his darshan, or personal blessing, to about 75,000 people in Ahmednagar, India. On this day, Meher Baba issued his call. His words were read out on his behalf, and they continue to ring with profound significance for all of us in this time. I knew him and loved him as the Christ. As he arrived, he spelled out on the alphabet board, which he used to communicate verbally, not as man to man, but as God to God. I bow down to you so as to save you the trouble of bowing down to me. Again, Baba's words were read out to the people over the loudspeakers. He said, "To make you all share my feeling of being one with you and one of you, I sit down beside you." Returning to the platform, he washed the feet of 7 poor men, after which he gave each a gift of 51 rupees, saying, "As each one of you is in one way or another an incarnation of God, I feel happy to bow down to you and to lay at your feet this Devdakshana, gift offered to a deity." The whole thing came more or less as a surprise, probably not only to me, but to the other Westerners. We just arrived the previous night. We had no idea what we were going to be experiencing the following day, only that we looked forward to seeing Baba, of course. And Baba was very beautiful and very, very powerful as he came up on the platform.
and he just gave us a glance, a quick glance, just to acknowledge our presence there. So many who came before him brought beautiful, sweet-smelling garlands of flowers. So the atmosphere was surcharged with that fragrance of mostly the jasmine, sweet-smelling jasmine flowers. These people were from all walks of life and from every religious background that you could imagine. While probably some of them really thought of him as being the avatar, maybe some thought of him as being an incarnation of Vishnu or Krishna. Many also probably thought of him as being a great saint or just a holy man whose contact they'd like to have. In my case, I had always thought of him as the Christ, and I saw him there as the Christ at work with the multitudes. And it was a day of divine love and action. As I watched, hour after hour, my great wonder deepened into amazement, and I suppose even astonishment. I realized that something far more significant than was visible on the surface was actually taking place there. I was impelled to try to fathom that significance. I have come to the conclusion within my own mind that Baba was not only working with the thousands that were there at that time, but that he was doing a universal work. I felt that his love was going out throughout the whole universe, that he was doing a universal work there at that time. Following some speeches, the darshan program began, and this amounted to Baba really going to work. He took off his coat and rolled up his sleeves. There were so many that in order for them all to have a contact, they had to move very rapidly. To each one, Baba would give a handful of sweetmeats, but more than that, he gave each one a personal contact. It was a love exchange, a love gift really from him. Of course, the significance was divine love. And I've always felt, since being with Baba, that divine love is total significance.
Although, as a vital part of his mission in the world, he had remained silent since 1925, he gave out many messages and even dictated several books. Here then is the message, Meher Baba's Call, as dictated by him in English. Age after age, when the wick of righteousness burns low, the Avatar comes yet once again to rekindle the torch of love and truth. Age after age, amidst the clamor of disruptions, wars, fear, and chaos, rings the Avatar's call, "Come all unto me." Although because of the veil of illusion, this call of the Ancient One may appear as a voice in the wilderness, its echo and re-echo nevertheless pervades through time and space to rouse at first a few and eventually millions from their deep slumber of ignorance. And in the midst of illusion, as the voice behind all voices, it awakens humanity to bear witness to the manifestation of God amidst mankind. The time is come. I repeat the call and bid all come unto me. This time-honored call of mine thrills the hearts of those who have patiently endured all in their love for God, loving God only for love of God. There are those who fear and shudder at its reverberations and would flee or resist, and there are yet others who, baffled, fail to understand why the highest of the high, who is all-sufficient, need necessarily give this call to humanity. Irrespective of doubts and convictions, and for the infinite love I bear for one and all, I continue to come as the Avatar, to be judged time and again by humanity in its ignorance, in order to help man distinguish the real from the false.
Baba interrupted the program to go to a nearby field where there were some 20,000 poor people being given a free meal. In their devotion to Baba, they would not even start eating their meal until Baba came and shared a little of it with them. This was the only actual break that I saw him make all day. One loses oneself in an experience like that. Just become lost in it. Really overwhelmed by it, I might add. At least I did.
Hear me, he calls to everyone. Hear me, to sustain the world I've come. Oh, hear me, for my life I give for you. For soon the day will come when everyone will know the truth.
The schedule was for Baba to leave at 6 p.m. But still, there were so many pressing forward to see him and have a contact with him that he climbed up on top of the car. Baba's love radiance lent a special kind of glow to the whole atmosphere. One did not remain static and crystallized as one ordinarily was, being around Baba. There was always some kind of a dissolving process that took place. And on this occasion, it was really gigantic. It was devastating to the hard shell of the personality self, the crystallized self. When that begins to dissolve, something else can happen within, and one is able to experience love at a much greater intensity than ordinarily, and actually to express, to feel that love. Even after Baba left, people were coming by the thousands until late at night, and of course they did not get to see Baba that day. So he arranged to have another darshan program on the 26th of September 1954 near the trust's office in that compound. And people came forward, the same as they had at the big mass darshan, had their intimate contact with him, their love contact with him. From a Western point of view, their devotional way of expressing themselves was much more impressive than in the West. You'd think people would come forward and shake hands, but in India they want to come forward and put their head at the master's feet, kiss his feet, do things like that, The sense of appreciation seemed much more intense. To continue with Baba's words from the call, invariably muffled in the cloak of the infinitely true humility of the Ancient One, the divine call is at first little heeded, until in its infinite strength it spreads in volume to reverberate and keep on reverberating in countless hearts as the voice of reality. Strength begets humility, whereas modesty bespeaks weakness. Only he who is truly great can be really humble. When, in the firm knowledge of it, a man admits his true greatness, it is in itself an expression of humility. He accepts his greatness as most natural and is expressing merely what he is, just as a man would not hesitate to admit to himself and others the fact of his being man. For a truly great man who knows himself to be truly great, to deny his greatness would be to belittle what he indubitably is. For whereas modesty is the basis of guise, true greatness is free from camouflage. On the other hand, when a man expresses a greatness he knows or feels he does not possess, he is the greatest hypocrite. Honest is the man who is not great, and knowing and feeling this, firmly and frankly states that he is not great. There are more than a few who are not great, yet assume a humility in the genuine belief
of their own worth. Through words and actions, they express repeatedly their humbleness, professing to be servants of humanity. True humility is not acquired by merely donning a garb of humility. True humility spontaneously and continually emanates from the strength of the truly great. Voicing one's humbleness does not make one humble. For all that a parrot may utter, "I am a man," it does not make it so. Better the absence of greatness than the establishing of a false greatness by assumed humility. Not only do these efforts at humility on man's part not express strength, they are, on the contrary, expressions of modesty born of weakness, which springs from a lack of knowledge of the truth of reality. Beware of modesty. Modesty, under the cloak of humility, invariably leads one into the clutches of self-deception. Modesty breeds egoism, and man eventually succumbs to pride through assumed humility. The greatest greatness and the greatest humility go hand in hand, naturally and without effort. When the greatest of all says, "I am the greatest," it is but a spontaneous expression of an infallible truth. The strength of his greatness lies not in raising the dead, but in his great humiliation when he allows himself to be ridiculed, persecuted, and crucified at the hands of those who are weak in flesh and spirit. Throughout the ages, humanity has failed to fathom the true depth of the humility underlying the greatness of the Avatar, gauging his divinity by its acquired limited religious standards. Even real saints and sages who have some knowledge of the truth have failed to understand the Avatar's greatness when faced with his real humility. Age after age, history repeats itself when men and women, in their ignorance, limitations, and pride, sit in judgment over the God-incarnated man who declares his godhood, and condemn him for uttering the truths they cannot understand. He is indifferent to abuse and persecution, for in his true compassion he understands. In his continual experience of reality he knows, and in his infinite mercy he forgives. God is all. God knows all, and God does all. When the Avatar proclaims he is the Ancient One, it is God who proclaims his manifestation on earth. When man utters for or against the Avatarhood, it is God who speaks through him. It is God alone who declares himself through the Avatar and mankind. I tell you all with my divine authority that you and I are not we, but one. You unconsciously feel my Avatarhood within you. I consciously feel in you what each of you feel. Thus, every one of us is Avatar in the sense that everyone and everything is everyone and everything at the same time and for all time.
The Big Mass Darshan program was really only the beginning of what was later described as 3 incredible weeks with Meher Baba. There were many other days which seemed equally incredible, just incredible. It was so wonderful being with him. Coming to India was the culmination of many years of longing and inner striving to be near to him. Being in his presence day after day brings about a radical change in one's inner being. Baba himself is unlimited, infinite consciousness. He is unlimited light, unlimited truth, unlimited reality, unlimited love, the ocean of divine love. Simply being in his presence, we were exposed to these very truths, this very reality, enveloping and permeating and just filling us with mostly his divine love.
Baba goes on to say in the call, there is nothing but God. He is the only reality, and we all are one in the indivisible oneness of this absolute reality. When the one who has realized God says, I am God, you are God, and we are all one, and also awakens this feeling of oneness in his illusion-bound selves, then the question of the lowly and the great, the poor and the rich, the humble and the modest, the good and the bad, simply vanishes. It is his false awareness of duality that misleads man into making illusory distinctions and filing them into separate categories. I repeat and emphasize that in my continual and eternal experience of reality, no difference exists between the worldly rich and the poor. But if ever such a question of difference between opulence and poverty were to exist for me, I would deem him really poor who, possessing worldly riches, possesses not the wealth of love for God. And I would know him truly rich who, owning nothing, possesses the priceless treasure of his love for God. His is the poverty that kings could envy, and that makes even the King of Kings his slave.
So many times I have thought about you in the darkness of my room all alone. And now it seems that all of my thoughts of you, it seems that somehow they have grown. For you mean so much more to me, so much more than I had ever known. For you're all that is in life. Yes, you're all that is in life. You're all that is in life. Now your spirit, it lies inside of me, and it runs through the blood in my veins. I guess that's why all that I know in my life, it's that I will see you again. Well, if you're in me, well, if I'm in you, then for everything it must be the same. Then you're all that is in life. Then you're all that is in life. You're all that is. You're all that lives. You're all that
Know,
is.
therefore, that in the eyes of God, the only difference between the rich and the poor is not of wealth and poverty, but in the degrees of intensity and sincerity in the longing for God. On the 29th and 30th of September, we Westerners were privileged to attend an important meeting at Mehrabad, during which Baba gave his final declaration. As the meeting began, Baba greeted each one with an embrace. Again, from the message Meher Baba's call, love for God alone can annihilate the falsity of the limited ego, the basis of life ephemeral. It alone can make one realize the reality of one's unlimited ego, the basis of eternal existence. The divine ego, as the basis of eternal existence, continually expresses itself But, shrouded in the veil of ignorance, man misconstrues his indivisible ego and experiences and expresses it as the limited, separate ego. Pay heed when I say with my divine authority that the oneness of reality is so uncompromisingly unlimited and all-pervading that not only we are one, but even this collective term of we has no place in the infinite, indivisible oneness. Awaken from your ignorance and try at least to understand that in the uncompromisingly indivisible oneness, not only is the avatar God, but also the ant and the sparrow, just as one and all of you are nothing but God. The only apparent difference is in the states of consciousness. The avatar knows that that which is a sparrow is not a sparrow, whereas the sparrow does not realize this, and being ignorant of its ignorance, identifies itself as a sparrow. Live not in ignorance. Do not waste your precious lifespan in differentiating and judging your fellow men, but learn to long for the love of God. Even in the midst of your worldly activities, live only to find and realize your true identity with your beloved God. Be pure and simple, and love all, because all are one. Live a sincere life, be natural, and be honest with yourself. Honesty will guard you against false modesty, and will give you the strength of true humility.
We have waited all our lifetime for the truest of our friends, for the truest of our lovers, one who will love us to the end. Now at last it seems we've found you. Before us all you stand, as we bring ourselves around you. We all reach out for the hand of someone like you. We always knew someone like you we've all been waiting for. Forever since you come to everyone, now we all will wait no more.
Spare no pains to help others. Seek no other reward than the gift of divine love. Yearn for this gift sincerely and intensely, and I promise in the name of my divine honesty that I will give you much more than you yearn for. Over the years, Meher Baba's close companion, Erich Jesawala, was the one who most often spoke out Baba's words at public gatherings.
Unity in the midst of diversity can be made to be felt only by touching the very core of the heart. That is the work for which I have come. I have come to sow the seed of love in your hearts, so that, in spite of all superficial diversity, which your life in illusion must experience and endure, the feeling of oneness through love is brought about amongst all nations, creeds, sects, and castes of the world.
Through the years we will all find, and in time we'll all become someone like you. We always knew someone like you we've all been waiting for. Forever since you've come.
On the 30th of September, he led the whole company up the hill at Meherabad, and we gathered with him near what was later to become his tomb shrine.
We'll wait no more for someone like you. We always knew someone like you we've all been waiting for. Forever since you come to everyone.
Now we all will wait no more.
This is the ideal way, through the personal aspect of God, to discover the unlimited nature of divine love, which eliminates separation of all kinds and gives one a sense of oneness. He explained to us in India that he's really always with everyone. But for the most part, people are so preoccupied with other things that they're not conscious of it. So that they have to be working on becoming conscious of his presence and to value that presence rather than all the other things which distract the mind and the heart, you see.
Miss Kitty Davey met Meher Baba in London in 1931. He stayed in her family's house on his first visit to the West. These words from Baba were also read out during that incredible Mass Darshan program.
To love God in the most practical way is to love our fellow beings. If we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our own dear ones, we love God. If instead of seeing faults in others, we look within ourselves, we are loving God. If instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. If we suffer in the suffering of others and feel happy in the happiness of others, we are loving God. If instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think of ourselves more fortunate than many, many others, we are loving God. If we endure our lot with patience and contentment, accepting it as His will, we are loving God. If we understand and feel that the greatest act of devotion and worship to God is not to hurt or harm any of His beings, we are loving God. To love God as He ought to be loved, we must live for God and die for God, knowing that the goal of life is to love God and find Him as our own self. Hamari nav bharadariye tarave lo hame tariye hamara na khuda.
Again, in the message, Meher Baba's call, Baba said,
I give you all my blessing, that the spark of my divine love may implant in your hearts the deep longing for love of God.
बाबा भीख दे की मारे बाबा इसिलाही बाबा ने भूलूंगा न कभी प्रभु जी।
With us, and in Andhra too, one problem was their constant problem, short of time. Baba would give three darshan in a day. Every 3 hours, 4 hours, one darshan. Here, finished, hurriedly took few marches and go.
Continuously, day and night, Baba would go from one place to another. And I tell you, the places Baba visited, afterwards, of course, those people, they would just find Baba nothing but Baba. They would see outside just Baba is there for them. 5-6 days they were just out of the world.
I think it was really a very momentous phase in Baba's life. Hundreds came, thousands came with so many presents to Baba, fruits Baba, garlands, flowers and all that. Baba received their love, but Baba gave more of his love to them through his sight, through his gesture, through his just casting a glance over them. And it was really a sight. It was really a fortune, you may say. That's what they say, it's a sight for the gods to witness, wherein Baba was giving and giving and giving of his love and compassion in abundance.
ब्रह्म रूप श्री विष्णु रूप तू शिव शंकर हे तू ब्रह्म रूप श्री विष्णु रूप तू शिव शंकर हे तू जरतृष्टान एषु रूप तू गौतम बुद्ध हे तू जरतृष्टान एषु रूप तू गौतम बुद्ध हे तू।
What may I describe to you, because when naturally they had a greater scope of having a visual picture of what's around them. With me, my picture was him, his body. So I had to be with him all the time, following him, and guarding the body and keeping the sea of humanity away from him. That's how it was. Well, to bring these little episodes to our memory is, what should I say, unforgettable, most unforgettable. Those were the years, you see. as I was just now saying about sea of humanity around him. And sometimes we would get the feeling, you see, that we are in the midst of a battlefield, without any weapons to fight for, except the support of the one who has created the whole thing, that is Meher Baba. But still, we being human beings, often I used to have a little bit of shivers also, because we are unprotected. And you know how the masses are. A little difference here and little difference in the concept, riots. And not that we had any walls against which we can stand or anything. We were right in the center and all around was just there. So it was very difficult for us. For us means those who were presuming that they were trying to protect the body of the one who is the creator of everything and the show itself. That's how it was.
Baba went to Andhra twice. First time in 1953 and second time in 1954. When first time he went there, it was Baba's fiery free life. Fiery but free life. And when Baba started this life, of course no one could understand what it meant. But when Baba went to different places in India, then people could come to know what was it. Really speaking, during this tour, he spread the fire of his love.
How it was initiated, what had happened is that it so happened that Baba sent me and Pendu, Baba's cousin, on tour. So we are there in that state called Andhra now. So we are there for the first time. Hardly anybody comes to know about him and all that, except Dr. Dhanapati Rao. He was a doctor, and his family and some other 2 or 3 families to whom he has heard. So he heard from Madras. He came to Andhra and he shared whatever he had heard. You know how it goes on and on, the name of Lord spreads from one mouth to another mouth. So we are there. Naturally, he invited us to his place and we are telling them, and then from one city and one village, one town, we go from place to place, myself and Pendu. The 2 of us are there. And what we do is just give them the message about Sri Sadguru Meher Baba, how he is known as. At that time he was known as Sri Sadguru Meher Baba. So that's how it was, and then we said, well, people call him that, but that's how we take him to be quite different. From my mother I learned something different, that he is the one who was expected and he is expected, and this. All that rap, we have to give out in order to pass the time. What to do? To pacify their hearts. But then the effect was something quite different than what was expected. We never expected such, what do you call, acceptance of his name. To us it appeared as if we are just in an orchard there, and we just looked at the fruits that seemed to be there on the tree, but they were so ripe that as soon as his names were given out, they started falling onto our laps, you see, ripe fruits. So they started saying out with one voice, when will we have in our midst? How will we have in our midst? What's going to happen? So that's the time when he went there. What had happened when we returned, we told them that, and I could say nothing except to say that nothing can bring him to you all. Only thing that can draw him to you all is your love for him. So try to love him, remember him, long for him. Get that longing in your heart that will drag him to you. Because, well, he had told us that although he has come as the Lord of his lovers in our midst, but love has such potential that Lord can become the slave of the love of his lovers. So I had that backing. So I gave out that, you see, that only your longing can draw him, so he is the slave of the love of the lovers and all that. So that's why I just gave out. So then Baba went for the first time.
See, I first came in contact with Baba in 1953. We were there in the queue. Baba came, many people were going in the line and taking their darshan. But as the circumstances happened, we were not able to take darshan before the crowds finished, and it was 11 o'clock, and the doors of that darshan pandal was closed, and we were asked to go out. But my friend was very eager, and he said, no, Baba will call us, let us stand somewhere here. So Baba went to his room, all the crowds were dispersed, everyone was going out, but my friend and myself, we were standing in a corner. He watches us and he says, why are you just staying here? So my friend takes courage, goes to him and tells that we are from Calcutta and we want to have Baba's darshan. In the meanwhile, Baba calls him and tells why, what is the problem? So he says, Baba, there is some few people there who have come from Calcutta. They want to have your darshan. So Baba says, oh, it is Raghalu's group. Baba takes the name of that young man. Raghalu's group, call them. So we go inside Baba's room, and in Baba's room, one by one, we are just being introduced. So when my turn came, my friend told Baba he is Rama Rao from Bilaspur. Then the board was there, alphabet board was there just by the side. Casually Baba picked up, started turning it in such a beautiful manner, abruptly stopped it and spelled out on the board, Ramam, R-A-M-A-M, Ramam, I know you. So I was taken back. You see, I have not met this gentleman any time. How can he just know me? Then I thought, he's a very advanced man. He must be knowing by intuition that I am so and so. But only my parents know this. But in between as I was just thinking, Baba was attending to some other ladies, some other visitors in the room. And again, at last, when Baba touched some prasad and asked Irich to distribute the prasad to all the lovers there, and Irich started distributing the prasad. So my friend tells, Baba, we want prasad from your hands. So Baba picks up 2 plantains and gives one to me and one to my friend Raghalu. And he tells again, now pointing his finger at my heart, he says, I know you. At that particular moment I felt, oh, he is my father. I lost my father at the age of 11, so I said, he is my father. Secondary thing is God or advanced soul or saintly person. This thought never came. He is my father. He is my real father.
Oh, the journey with God is the journey of the heart. Oh, the journey with God is an adventure from the start. Oh, the journey with God is the journey to oneself. Oh, the journey with God is a treasure of great wealth.
In his second Andhra visit, Baba publicly, openly categorically, with divine honesty, said, whatever you may say, I am the same ancient one. But this publicly telling the people began in this very year, 54, in Hamirpur on 10th February 1954.
Yeah, I remember that night very well. Yeah. Baba is made to stay at a place called Mehwa. This is a remote village, and there's a hillock. It's a hill place. It's a forest area, but in the forest area there is a hill. And on the hill there was, naturally Baba was such a personality that these people in the remote villages, they did not know how to receive him. So they had constructed a special hut for him to receive, because their hovels are such that they feel that it is below Baba's dignity to step inside, and all that sort of thing is there. Human hearts are there, minds are there. So they had constructed a special hut for him. And Baba was staying there, and there are daily programs there. He was there for about 3 or 4 days, I think. I forget the number of days. But it was a longer stay. So that's how he was. And that night Baba said that we'll have a good program, music program here. So people have gathered from neighboring villages and from that particular village and the neighboring villages and all that. And they are all seated there and having a good time. So the music has started about 8 o'clock after dinner. And then Qawwali programs are there, and Baba is enjoying. There are no electric lights on there. Just lanterns are there and pressure lamps are there, you know. And it's a lighted area and all that. But not as electricity would help us to have the brightness. So the music was going on and all that, and Baba would sometimes stop the person from playing the music and explain the lines and give the deeper meanings and all that sort of thing. To our utter surprise, while the man was singing, the Qawwal was singing, Baba signaled to me and told him to stop. So, stop. So he dictates to me, and Baba says, speak out loudly. So I read the dictation, and the dictation was, Hail Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Means Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. So I spoke out loudly, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, for the first time. And there was a resounding response to it. And there was silence. Total silence. And then Baba said, I am the one who has come in your midst once again. I am the one that brings the ancient message. Love me. Love God. I am God in human form. That's what he said. So well, that was the thing. And from that time onwards, it went on and on and on and on. For the first time, publicly, he declared in a remote village as to who he is. But it was the effect there at that time, in that night, was surcharged with Baba's presence and him being the ancient one, the avatar. Now, this is the second time that we are going now in 54. goes from place to place, telling to people that I am the same ancient one come in your midst once again, bringing the same ancient message, love God. And after a pause of a split second, he said, love me because I am God in human form. Come to give their addresses and speak out their heart. Who is in your midst? They welcome him. People from different walks of life. You know, wherever you go, in any town, city and all that, there are these political parties are there. Men of different concepts and opinions are there. From the poorest to the poor, from the richest, parliamentarians and ordinary laborers and all that. One great thing I noticed was, how could one person get all of them together on a platform filled with love? They forget their differences of opinion, they forget their oppositions and all that sort of thing, and they are with one heart, put their hands there to work and create some atmosphere of great love and concord and harmony. That I found in him. Although it may be for that day or for that hour, but that's a great achievement. Without any payment, cash, without saying a word because he was silent, without doing anything, his presence was such that created that harmonious effect. You see. All castes, creeds and nationalities with different languages are all there. No distinction. There's no such thing as he is this caste or that sect. Of all colors, creeds and everything. Highest of the high and lowest of the low are all there in the sea of humanity. We were surprised with this. Baba is made to rest at some places. In the house of a certain person and all that. So I still remember it was morning time, after a little breakfast and tea, and we are there all gathered before going down for the darshan program. And there are children, there are women and all that. So one, he must have been about 6 or 7 like that. So he could hardly go out and do this, and he crawled over the bed there. And of course, I tried to get him out. So I said, let it be. So he climbed over there. I thought that, well, he's wanting to press Baba's feet or something like that, or what he's going to do. But he stands up on that bed there. And then looks at Baba and then turns to the families around. And then in his language, vernacular language, he started telling people, he couldn't follow what it is, but addressing as if he is a great lecturer, you know, with all the gestures and all that. Do you know who he is? How blessed we are that he has come in our midst, and this and that. This is what I had followed through the translations. You have no idea of the blessings, what a blessed day it is to have him in this house and to be in our midst like that. And he went on and on and on and on. And Baba is looking at him, admiring him and all that sort of thing. And then he gave a little dance, you see, and he sang songs and all that. Who told him? Who inspired him to say? It was spontaneous. What soul he must be, we don't know.
At Andhra, we were with Baba about 75, between 70, 80. Big number was there. I don't know the exact number. The Hamirpur Baba lovers were there. Some other selected ones were there. Our Mandali were there. Those who came from Australia, some from Bombay, people from centers, all centers, here, there. They were drivers because the working committee were there. Buses, trucks, and jeep and cars like that. Big party was there. So Baba put me in charge of the luggage of all those persons. You are in charge of luggage. See that not a piece of luggage should not be missed. So I had to take care of the 70 or 80% luggage. I have to take care of it. So I would go there and tell all luggage should be packed and brought here. Everyone, just in 10 minutes. And they would pack it and bring it here. Then the truck would come and buses would come. We put some luggage in the truck and some luggage on the top of the bus and would tidy it like that. Thank Baba, not a piece of luggage lost.
As you proceed to South in India, you know, people are very orthodox, they are very religious minded. So many people during both the Andhra tours of Baba, what I have noticed is people used to come to question him, people used to ask him something, people used to come, there were many doubting Thomases, but everybody who used to come just offer a flower or a garland or a coconut or some sort of fruits to Baba, they used to feel that happiness, that oneness with him, that Atmita, the oneness with Baba. And Baba used to make them feel that I am one with you on every level. Because in Andhra, people are very intellectual, you know. Baba said, it is my head.
So in one place, of course, first time Baba did not go there. The name of the place was Vijayawada. And so second time when Baba went there, it so happened that that was the place where many priests were there, priest class, and they heard about Baba that he calls himself as the avatar. So they went to the place of darshan where Baba was to give darshan. Big pandal was there, and they were just sitting in a line, and they wanted to ask question, and they had come with that preparation that Baba, of course, Baba should explain to them, prove himself as the avatar through Vedanta. They were telling other people that you are calling him as avatar. Now today we will see what happens to him. And then Baba comes there. And he says to them that my experience is that I am in everyone. So why should I ask you to salute me? I am saluting myself within you. And the effect, all those priests who were there, they forgot to argue with Baba or to say anything. They were just stunned, quiet. A short message was given, and they were the persons who came to receive the prasad first.
Naturally, from one place to another, bird goes around like wildfire, as is called. So, at a certain place, which is considered to be the stronghold of orthodoxy, Baba is there. And as usual, the sea of humanity is there. And again, he gives the same message. It's a new place, new city. I am the ancient one. come once again in your midst as man amongst men. I bring the same ancient message, love God. Love me, because I am God in human form. Fine, that's fine. I was habituated in interpreting. I had to speak out loudly on the public address system. But this time he added something more, which I never anticipated. What does he say? I have come in your midst. I have come in your midst once again to do away with all rites, rituals and ceremonies. Oh God, I had to say it. Meher Baba says that. But I got such shivers because of the orthodoxy around him. I said, my God, if they were to go against, we'll be slaughtered. So I really shivered. And then he pulled my shirt and said, don't you worry. I looked at him and said, don't worry, speak out loudly here. So that's how it was. So, but all accepted that. Yeah.
Journey with God is a journey of love. Oh, the journey with God is right here, not above.
At one moment he will be the master of the whole situation. At another moment he would be like a commoner, not knowing what to do. Where should we go? Should we go here? Where are we taken? Like that. Well, he is regal. He is most natural. That doesn't mean that if he's regal that he will be the same with the ordinary laborer who comes to him. He'll come down, you see, to there and be there, you see, with them. It's not that he'll just have his posture like that and expose his regal attitude. You say, no, you just come down to the level. Why he could do that? Because he's all that. I'm like a child also in your midst, you would say. Unless and until you become childlike, you won't be able to realize me.
That tour was for 15 days. How many places Baba covered during that time? And not only this darshan program, but he would also give house visit. When people would invite, he would go there continuously day and night, day and night.
The main workers were asked to prepare a list, and naturally they would arrange for the conveyance, and Baba would go, and the main thing would be just this: they would go there, we would go there. Sometimes it would be so quick that by the time the second bus goes in, Baba would be just coming out, because Baba keeping his just being there even for a moment was an eternity for them, and they were happy with that.
But for him, you have no idea the house visit. Just imagine how many times he must have gotten out of the car, how many times he must have entered the car. Oh my God, they wouldn't allow him to walk. And when you see in the film, some shots I've seen, it seems so monotonous, what are they trying to do? Make him sit in the car and get him out, get him sit? No, but it was a fact like that. So Baba had to sit in the car and again get down there and again get down there and so forth. And there they would receive him, make him sit on the decorated chair, garland him, not only one, but wife must garland, the children must garland, the son-in-law, daughter-in-law, and all the loads of garlands are there now. Baba says what to do, operations of love. What to do. But these are the things. He comes in our midst to draw every heart closer and closer to him. And he takes great pains to do that. By hook or crook, would want us to get closer and closer to him. This is the drawing process. This is how our hearts registered, you see, but how he is mindful of every little heart. There are many good stories about his visits to Andhra and North India and other places.
There was another place called Maslipattam. It was just near the seashore, and about 40,000 people were there, and Baba was giving darshan, distributing prasad, and it was evening time when the program was over, and Baba was going to the place of residence, and all of a sudden he started walking this side, that side, as if he knew the place and road, everything, and we just followed. And what happens? He went to a hut near the seashore, and there was one old man standing at the door of the hut. And Baba went there and sat down on the ground and called that man and asked him to sit near him. Not a word, nothing. Baba did not ask him. Baba just sat there for 5 minutes and Baba left. And we did not know what was that. And then we came to know that he belonged to a lower caste, Harijan. And that man, whole day he was thinking that how unfortunate I am, that thousands of people, they are taking his darshan, but I cannot go there. If I go and people would just cross my shadow, they would beat me. So that caste system was so strong at that time that he could not dare to go to the place where Baba was giving his darshan. So he was cursing himself all the time that how unfortunate, and Baba goes to him and he gets the most.
It is known as Katta Subbarao's garden. So Baba was staying there. And those specially from Hamirpur and who had specially come to join Baba in this Andhra visit, and some of the Andhra workers also, just in a casual way he asked us, do you think that I am the avatar? And then he started pointing at certain persons, asking them, what is it that make you believe in me as the avatar? So there were nice stories. There were stories of miracles. There were really very touching stories of sickness and other things and how Baba has helped and all these things, of dreams and so many sorts of experiences. Baba patiently heard all those stories, and then he said, well, it's not because of the experiences, it's not because of the things that you experience that you take me as the avatar, but it is always my gift to you. It is in spite of experiences that you have to take me what I am, and I am that. The main event of this second Andhra tour was celebrating Baba's 68th birthday. So that morning, Dr. Dhanapati Rao, whom Baba used to call Grand Old Man of Andhra, so it was at his place that Baba was staying, and in the morning at 5 o'clock, all the family and all those who went with Baba were there, and Baba's feet were washed, and just Baba allowed it to be done out of love, not that he needs it, although it has its own significance too, definitely. So after that morning thing was done, then we went round the city itself. In his honor, Baba takes around in the Tadepalli Gudam, we went around with Baba. So the birthday, celebrating of Baba's birthday at Tadepalli Gudam was really a great occasion. All people were jubilant, all were very happy, embraced each other, and they looked at Baba. Baba looked so radiant and beautiful, I tell you. Some people read out poems, little articles and other things, and in the end, Baba gave a message. I especially remember that time because I was really all ears to listen what Baba is going to say on that day. So in the beginning he said, there can be no compromise in love. It has either to be full or not at all. I say with divine authority today that I am the Ancient One and the slave of those who really love me. Lose yourself in Baba and you will find that you eternally are Baba.
सब में बस कर तुम ही तो हो। आविचल स्वामी आविचल धामी, आविचल स्वामी आविचल धामी।
The more he is with them, the more he is needed amongst them. That's how it is. That's what he tells us about himself. Once you have a glimmer of my real self as to who I really am, if you see me as I really am, then there is no question. You would want to love me. And the more you love me, you'll feel that you are loving me less. So likewise, his presence was like that. People would throng, you see, and they would want to get hold of him. And then there were some volunteers around there, they would ward them off from, and then Baba will comfort them and say, let them come, doesn't matter. So, but Baba, there's a huge crowd that will rush through. No, just then Baba would comfort them, standing out there and tell them, just hold on to your seats. Don't worry about it. I won't leave the place till such time I give my prasad to you all. You know what prasad means? A gift from God to man in the form of food, because we are in the gross world, the world of food. The real prasad is quite different. It is hidden inside, you see. That is his love. But that's a little contact. It's a sort of a medium, we feel, getting closer to him. So people would long for that, sometimes in the form of a banana, sometimes in the form of a handful of sweets. You have no idea of the number of bananas, trucks loaded bananas, you see, but given out. But how could he give? With both hands, he would give out day from morning till evening, late in the evening. How I wish, you all were there at the time when he was there in the sea, in the midst of sea of humanity. Oh my God.